All right, we're good.
We're good? Nice.
Yep.
All right. So essentially what's going to happen
Is this
is
your bag up
all
here?
those who are pitching, you
Yeah,
come up
on
here
the
and
bathroom.
connect your computer to the
Yeah. Can I
display
bring it up
over
here?
here.
So we
We
save the
have
seat?
both
Yeah.
HTML and also type C. And yeah, then you should please continue your pitch to like 5 to 10 minutes. As you can see, we have 9 games. So like go through the and then after each pitch there will be a Q&A session. So all the folks you can ask questions about your pitch. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And also, when you're pitching, when you're listening to pitches, please note down which team you really want to join. Because at the end, we're going to send out a Google Sheet link, or Google survey link, where you can fill out which team you want to join and your preferences for each team. So just be sure to write down the name of any teams you want to join. Yeah, questions?
So what would happen if, let's say I join 15 and I get rejected in all of them? Does that mean I can participate in this semester?
No, we're actually not going to reject people. Instead, we're going to see we're going to match preferences. For example, if your top preference is like this thing, and then this thing needs to go, which is actually if this thing is already full, then we'll actually into the next preference. So please do not select only one game, or else you will be in a very difficult situation. Yeah.
So there'll be like a priority list of like I like this one more than this.
Yes. It's priority queue. Essentially, you can rank your preference. Yeah. Cool. Any questions?
Oh, also, there are lots of seats kind of scattered about, and also this middle spot is way better for sitting on the sides. You can see more.
Cool. Yeah, looks like you're sitting in the middle. Oops. And yeah, there's a please wear your mask on like the entire time because I don't think I was supposed to pack this many people here.
It's technically their fault.
Right. So for the first team, we have Home Fight.
No, it's good. Thank you.
Through and one side.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
So, this is my game, Farm Fight. Think of it as a combination between Settlers of Catan, Heyday, and just some random fighting involved. So, Settlers of Catan is a hexagonal board game where the goal is to accumulate resources on your squares and then use those resources to get points. And Heyday, as you can guess from the game, just has to do with a lot of farming. My game kind of combines two ideas from both and then has the fighting involved just to make it more fun. Okay, so first about me before I get into the mechanics. So I'm from the Chicago suburbs, and I really like playing board games like Settlers. That's kind of where I got the idea for my game from. And I have a lot of experience with front-end development and back-end development with AWS. So I don't have a lot of experience with making games on game engines, which is why I need a lot of help in this. But I am good at web design, if that helps. Okay, so the game is going to be a fast-paced 2D video game between 6 players. So this is what the board will look like. What I was talking about, the hexagonal board game, each of these are different tiles, and there are 6 players who each start at 6 different corners. So the goal of the game is to control the whole board, getting all the tiles on the board. And to do that, you plant crops, you get money from the crops, and you use that money to buy more crops or you buy soldiers. And you use those soldiers to take more territory and use those seeds to get more territory too. I'll get more into that, but those are the overall ideas. So some money, you can only plant your new seeds right next to where your original starting tile is. So for example, say I got some money, I want to buy another potato seed, I plant it on this tile. I can't plant it over here because I can only plant it on tiles right there, right next to mine. And essentially you want to keep on getting more money so you can get more expensive crops that are more beneficial to you. And once you have enough of the board and you have enough money base, you want to steal tiles from other players, and that'll let you win the game in the end. So yeah, what I was talking about were the soldiers. The soldiers will help you take the tiles. Okay, so these are the four main crops. There's potatoes, carrots, wheat, and golden rice. Like I said, potatoes, what you start with, it's pretty bad. Then once you get enough money from them, that's basically determined by the harvest stat. So the harvest stat, I don't have an exact computational formula for this yet, but like basically the higher harvest you are, the more money you'll get from the crop after a certain amount of period of time. So obviously golden rice would be the best because it's the highest harvest stat and usually around like 10 times better than potatoes. But it also costs 10 times more, so it'll be harder to get, but it'll help you in the long run. So resistance is the last stat. Resistance is useful when soldiers are fighting on a tile. So you can only take tiles if soldiers, I'll get into that in the next slide, but you can only take tiles if your soldier wins a fight on that tile. And then once you win a fight on that tile is now yours. But the problem is part of that territory is destroyed due to the soldier's fight. And the resistance stat will help you plant crops on that tile. And so if you say you planted a potato on a crop that was say you planted a potato on a tile that was damaged by soldiers, it won't harvest at all. Only crops like golden rice and carrots and wheat will do it. Okay, so this is fighting. So remember I was talking about golden rice? It's like super good. That's the crop you want. And the other guys, they don't like this guy's golden rice. They want to steal that tile from him because they don't want him to keep harvesting money from that golden rice. It's too good. So what they're going to do now, this guy is going to send a soldier to here. It costs him $2 to do it, and obviously this guy wants to protect his golden rice. So he's now going to send his own soldier to defend. So the thing is that when the soldiers fight, this soldier is going to win, and this guy gets to keep this tile. And that's because soldiers defending are 1.5 times as powerful as soldiers attacking. So it'll always be easier to defend your territory, but if multiple people group together and attack your territory, you're basically screwed because that's like, say like all 5 of these are going for this golden rice, then it's 5 soldiers versus 1 soldier, and this guy's obviously going to lose his tile to someone. So soldiers, even if you're going to lose your soldier, like even if this guy's sending a soldier here, it may be still beneficial to him to do it because it'll hurt the enemy territory and like what I was talking about, soldiers fight on a tile, it becomes damaged, so he's going to get less money from this tile anyways. Okay, so again, the winner is the person who takes all the tiles, and then if we have more time for the game, we'll add bots to it, so make a campaign mode, but that's something for the future. Also, maybe we add different crops, make more mechanics, make the game more interesting. Okay, so here's what I want. I want lots of artists. Artists are very important to this game. I want it to look very nice. Oh yeah, and these are essentially all I need. This is what the artist, what I want the artist design to kind of be like, and this is the first is kind of what the style design has to be like. Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
So you said that this game is a 6-player game, but do you think that bots will be needed anyways because it might not be always practical to get 6 people at once on a game, so we need bots to fill the gap.
Exactly. So that's part of the reason why I think bots will be needed. But obviously, if you have enough player base, it'll be nice to have 6 players in a game. So we'll see how that works out.
I don't know if you said this or not. It's gonna be like an online one or is it gonna be local?
Okay, so I'm planning to make it an online game. Yeah, I didn't put it in the presentation, but I kind of open to ideas for that. I think something I put here, but I'm going to use Godot for the game engine, and then perhaps if not enough people have experience with that, because I think Godot would be the most efficient, we can use Unity.
Yeah, so you mentioned it's going to be a fast-paced game, but I have some ambiguity. Is it going to be a real-time game or a short time or turn-based?
It's not turn-based, real time. When crops harvest, they harvest on like every tile. So part of the game mechanic is to be able to harvest your tile in time and buy crops in the same and every turret has their own thing. It's not turn-based. So it's gonna be real time, fast paced.
Follow up to that, if it's real-time, will APS handle like stop time?
I don't know.
Like actions per second, like how fast it can play?
Yeah, that matters.
How willing are you like to change the game design as it progresses? Because it's an initial plan. So
Yeah, I am very willing to do that.
Maybe give some a little more specific if you can.
So obviously this is a presentation that I made with my idea in mind, but as more people join, they're gonna have their own ideas to make this game better. And I really want to make the best game that we can do with cooperation. So if people have a better idea, then I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, sound clip just now was a little soft. Do you need to play that over the speaker?
But yeah, I don't know how that will work. I can only use my laptop. Here, yeah.
All right. Any questions? Now then, thank you so much. All right. Well, next game we
Super
have
quiet.
Golf Quest.
There's nothing you can do. Oh, we want to try and move it. Okay. Give me a second.
And also for those asking questions and also for presentation, please speak louder because like the sound there is a bit quiet.
Wait, I have a question. Are these slides going to be released or something?
Yes. We're gonna attach that to the presentation for Office now. Give us 1 second. I'm moving the camera to the front.
Where do we want to put?
Right here.
In the chair? No, I go in the chair. Oh, that makes more sense.
Cool. Please start.
Alright, hello everyone, my name is Dakota Hernandez, you guys can call me DK, and I'm presenting my game, Golf Quest. Definitely a working title, but we're going to start by talking a little bit about me and what Golf Quest is, and how it's different from existing, or I guess from its competitors. Then we're going to talk about how exactly we're going to go about implementing our systems, and I'm going to give you a little bit of inspiration on the art and sound design, and then talk a little bit about like the roadmap for what I hope we can get done by each of our deadlines, and then talking about you know, who I would like on my team. A little bit about me: I'm a junior in CS. I have a minor in game design, and some games I've worked on in the past. Last semester I took GDPP. Highly recommend if you want to make a lot of games in a semester. Also done some visual novels for the OLab and a couple smaller projects in high school. But outside of games, I really like snowboarding. If anyone's interested in skiing or snowboarding, you can hit me up after the presentation. I'm on CMU Club Ski Board team. Last year I was on CMU Sports, played Counter-Strike, but now I just kind of play like Fall Guys or Smash or whatever. So, Golf Quest is a VR mini golf game that turns the player's play space into a mini golf course. What makes Golf Course different from existing golf titles, specifically existing titles on VR, is that I don't want there to be any artificial movement. So if you've ever played VR, you have to navigate your environment by like teleporting where you want to go, or by like pushing a joystick and having your character move. But this can be really disorienting, especially for new players, because it can induce motion sickness and is not as immersive as just like moving your body to where you want to go. So I hope we can foster a lot of interactions with the players, like physical environments. And also like office golf, it kind of exists already. So maybe like people already kind of familiar with playing golf in their rooms. There are 3 main competitors on the Oculus Quest platform. The first is Walkabout Mini Golf. It's probably the most similar to what I have in mind. It's mini golf, but again, the courses are a lot larger, and you have to use artificial movement to get around. Flatlands 2 is for more like big boy golf or big person golf. You have to use like drivers and other large clubs and stuff like that. And Top Golf is Top Golf if you've ever been to like the real life Top Golf driving range. But the bottom line here, all these games use artificial movements, and that is the one thing that I'm trying to eliminate with Golf Quest. There's a couple ways we can go about actually keeping the course confined to a player's space. The first of which being hand designing levels to fit certain room dimensions. The second of which being procedurally generating levels that can vary in size depending on the player's size, the player's room size. And lastly, this is kind of more of a stretch goal, but we could have like an in-game level builder for players to place like elements within their room. The first option, hand designing levels, definitely the easiest to implement. And it ensures that we don't have to worry about like testing procedural generation all the time, and that we won't get bad levels that don't feel fun to play. But the major downside is that we're going to have to restrict or require that players have rooms of a certain dimension. So, for example, if you wanted to have a course like this, where you make a U-turn throughout the player's room, this player would have ample space to make that work, but someone in a smaller room like this would have trouble like getting this to fit, unless they wanted to crawl in their bed, but I do not recommend. Other major downside is that there's less replay value, but that's like not super big deal, because it would only be a fixed number of courses. The other option would be procedurally generating levels based on the room size. So one like method that I thought about previously was dividing the room into like a grid of squares of a certain dimension and placing tiles within each square to like build out the course. So you could have courses in both of these room sizes. However, like this one would obviously be less interesting, but they would still be able to play the game. They wouldn't be totally isolated. Or excluded, rather. But again, this would be a lot harder to implement, and we'd have to test it pretty extensively to make sure that levels actually play well. I actually made a demo of this a couple years ago by basically just copy-pasting a YouTube tutorial, and it's made in Unreal, and the levels generate and are mostly oriented within the player's play space. But you can kind of see that there are some issues here. Like, if you take a look at this top course, a mini golf course shouldn't have like 2 ends, right? Like there would be a hole here and a hole here, but like that's not practical. In mini golf, that's not how that works. And this one here is just kind of a mess, right? Like we have exits here somehow, and there's 2 entrances or something. So again, difficult, but would make things a lot more interesting. As for the art direction for this project, it should run on the Oculus Quest or other standalone headsets, because that's just where like the market's going right now. They are rapidly increasing in popularity, but as a result of that, like realism does not look good. I don't know if you can really tell, but like if you look at the slides later, this picture is a comparison of graphics between like Quest VR and PC VR, and there's an incredible amount of difference. It makes these standalone graphics look kind of silly. So shifting to something a little more cartoony, like something like Rec Room, would you know, not stress out the realism and would keep things a lot more friendlier. This top image is the asset pack I used for the demo from the last slide. Definitely something we can use if we want as a starting point. As for the sound direction, I mean, like, it's mini golf. There shouldn't be anything like super crazy or whatever. I mean, at least I don't think so. Like when I just go play mini golf, I kind of just want to like relax and have a good time. So the sound should ideally reflect that. I don't think we need more than 2 music tracks, like one for the main menu maybe and one for while you're playing. And then sound effects, again, it's golf. There should be sounds for like hitting the ball going in the hole, maybe like woo when you finish a course. And I have a quick sample from one of my friends from high school that kind of matches sort of the tone that I'm going for. Let's see if the sound works.
So which sport?
It's golf. It's golf. Shouldn't be too crazy. Next, going to talk about some specifics that I'd like to have by each of our major deadlines. As for the alpha, I think it's pretty reasonable for us to have the VR controls pretty much set up. That being like being able to build for VR platforms and like grabbing objects in your environment. By now, we should have, or by alpha, we should have decided on if we're going to go with hand design or procedural generation, and just focus on that for the rest of our timeline. As for art, UI, and music assets, we're just kind of in like prototyping stage right now. Get some basic things done so we can try and put something together. But don't plan on doing a ton of playtesting until beta, wherein I think we should have like the loop of our game done. So you should be able to start up, hit a ball into a golf hole, and be done. Maybe like we have multiple courses, but not expected. And we should have the course properly positioned within the player's play space. I think that I like had to put that on there because it seems like it's not going to be super easy. So I really want to have the course be like positioned in the player's space at that point, so we don't need to use artificial movement. We should have enough art assets and sound assets to have, again, like one level. We're really trying to have like a short demo so we can get people playing and testing out things like our mechanics, our physics, and like how to navigate the UI, make sure everything feels intuitive. For pre-release, should be able to mostly play through from start to finish. Most of the assets should be in at this point. More play testing, looking at level designs, UI, physics, and if we're doing procedural generation, getting that tested, making sure it at least semi-works. But as these things go, I understand that a lot of times we don't make deadlines, so the focus of release is just catching up on everything. And again, it's the end. Like you should be able to play through from start to finish. All the assets should be in the game, and all that stuff. I highly doubt we'll get to stretch goal territory, but here's just a couple options of things that we can look into if we have a little bit of extra time towards the end of the semester. Lastly, just going to talk a little bit about the roles that I believe we'll need for our team. I think we'll need at least 2 programmers, one of which to focus on VR programming specifically. I've done a little bit of VR work in the past, so it's something that I can work on. But we'll also need someone to do gameplay programming and like anything else that's not VR, because I also understand that like I have a VR headset in my room, but I'm sure most people do not. So I couldn't expect other people to work on VR stuff, given that they might not have the hardware. I think we might need a 3D artist to help us out with levels, objects, and scenery, all that stuff. But if we end up using those assets I mentioned before, we wouldn't need more than one. Possibly a level designer. I could see a big challenge in level design being making multiple unique courses that could fit into like one room size. Same thing for UI. Someone who would be willing to take on the challenge of like designing something that works in VR, because that's kind of different the way you interact with stuff versus on like a pancake screen. And someone to work on sound and or music. But that's about it for me. A little bit of time for questions. Here's just a recap of like some of the important points.
All right. Any questions?
I'm not that familiar with VR, but just as a give me a sense of it, how good is it? How good are we in terms of like obstacle detection? Because we're talking about like building within the confines of any room. So for procedural generation, is there a way to configure like, oh, this is a bed, this is where a bed is, or some obstacle?
When you set up your VR headset, you can draw out like an outline of your boundary, so we can get that information to determine like how big the player's space is.
Will this be in Blueprints or C++?
That is unknown at the moment. I'll leave it up to you. Or I guess that's something we can decide once we get started. Got it.
Yeah. So if there's no other questions, then thank you so much. And for those who are pitching, it would be awesome if you can send like a link of your pitch deck in the general chat, and people can also reply to this thread to ask any further questions. All right. Next up, we have Game Bites. David here.
Do you know how to
I think so.
Matthew, Joyce? So if you guys know how to do
We
Joyce,
do. I think
what? The options are small, medium, large. Not like. Hey, I might try medium and see if that kicks the front.
Why is it brighter?
It's blurry, stream is blurry.
Yeah, I hit them out.
Yeah, just fix it. You'll see it in a couple seconds.
I'll do low then. This is good? Alright, no, that's good. You know, I'll just turn everything off then. So everybody's good with that? Alright, I'll do that.
Hello everyone, now I am introducing GameBites, a beginner-friendly minigame collection. So first of all, I would introduce myself. I'm David and I'm the current GCS treasurer. I am a junior and I'm double majoring in business and computer science. I've worked at a lot of GCS projects since my freshman year, and these are some of the games that I've worked on. So now, what is GameBites? GameBites is basically here to improve GCS for beginners. It is designed as a beginner starting project in Unity. So people who join GameBites can basically have a sense of Unity by making the game instead of rendering. And now, I think this semester we are not hosting the Unity Studio, so this could be a great experience if you wanted to join and learn about Unity. Another cool thing about GameBites is that our games would eventually be played on the GCS arcade cabinet, as you can see over here. And it is pretty easy to play on this cabinet. So, as I said, GameBites is a Unity minigame collection. And these are all some of the games that has been created in GameBites in the past. I think this is the third semester that we're having GameBites, and these are all games that people created in the past. Yeah, after the pitch, I will also show some of the games that we have created. So who is this project for? If you're new to GCS and you want a project, but you don't want to commit too much in case the semester gets too rough. If you have been to GCS before, but you want to work on something a bit smaller than the normal GCS project, if you want to make something for the cabinet, or if you just wanted to get started with Unity. So basically, everyone's welcome to join GCS, whether you have, to join GameBites, whether you have had a lot of experience with games or not. And it does not take a lot of time. I think just working on the normal work hours should be enough. Work session should be enough for GameBites. And yeah, we can take any number of people who are interested in game developing, and people will be formed into groups of 2 or 3. And we do accept just anyone who are interested in games, artists, musicians, programmers, anyone who are interested can just join and form teams to make games. And in GameBites, basically every group will make their own minigame, and then that game will eventually go into our minigame collection. So what kind of minigames can we make? The minigames are restricted by the following rules because of the arcade cabinet. It has to have a joystick. It has to be controlled by a joystick and 2 buttons, and it should be around 1 to 2 minutes of game. So since the arcade cabinet has 2 sets of controls, this game should be either 2-player co-op or 2-player PvP. And other than that, you are free to do whatever you want. You can try to improve on an old classical idea, or you can try to make something of yourself. And now I will show a demo.
Fun fact, it was called Crucible before, like, a few semesters ago. They changed the game
At this
back.
point, it was a few years, wasn't it?
Sad to say. It's gotten a little less scary. Some games have some.
Sorry, the mapping on the keyboard is different from but yeah, you get that idea.
Show them the one with the licking.
It's randomized. You
Yes,
can't really
show us the
choose.
licking.
Fruit fight?
Fruit fight sounds right.
You said food.
Is this it?
I think this is like grabbing stuff his tongue, right? Oh yeah. So usually you have two players, and both players can do this, and then grab each other.
So yeah, the games that I showed were all games that have been created by other teams in the past, and this is very beginner friendly, and there will be a lot of support in work hours. And yeah, so the plan is to basically start the first week with a meeting and some game ideas. We would all basically introduce ourselves, have some icebreakers, and form teams in the first week, which is just like this Sunday. And then starting from the second week, we would set up Unity and Git. I would give a small introduction of how to get everything started. And then after that, we would start developing, and we would still have alpha, beta, pre-release, and release like the other teams. Any questions?
All right. No questions? Okay. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have.
Oh crap, it's us. Oh no.
Is that us?
It is us.
Oh. Good to know.
It is in fact our goal.
I know people are eating.
Oh, there it is.
So you're for
Oh, that sounds good. All right. Hello, hello. This is Haunted, and I'm Sebastian.
Hi, I'm Woody. We're gonna have slides that showed off stuff we made and who we were, but if you've been to like all the info sessions and stuff, you've seen those like 20 times now. So I'm the vice president. I make games.
I'm the president. I also make games.
Talk to us later if you'd like to know more about the games we made. But
Yeah.
other than that, we'll just get right into it.
Sounds good.
So this is Haunted, a VR horror experience in patent pending. So imagine that you're slowly creeping down a dark hallway, and you are holding this ball of light in your hands. It's the only light you can see. All around you, the house is creaking and shuddering, and you can't tell what's going on. Suddenly, the doors slam open, the light flicks off, and you see a hand creep into the room. So, what is this game actually? It is a haunted house experience where you traverse a spooky house holding your trusted torch ball. And what we mean by that is you're going to have a ball of light on a stick, kind of one in a cup, right? And that is the only light that you really have. So you are holding your life in your hands, and everything in the house is going to try to get you to drop it. They want you to jump and flip and knock it over. Once you've dropped it, you're dead. The game is over. But other than dropping it, there is no way to lose the game. None of the monsters can actually hurt you. None of the events can actually stop you from moving forward. It's just scary. So scares take the form of changes like music, lighting, and the mood, slamming the doors, having things kind of pop up behind you and move around. The game itself is going to take place in a kind of Victorian-style house, very spooky, kind of like, vanilla horror. And it has a set of semi-randomized objectives and scares. So every game, what you need to do will be slightly different, and how things will react will also be slightly different. Yeah.
Next up, let's talk about the pillars of the game. The pillars are the most important thing this game is about. So whenever we make a decision in the future, we're going to refer back to these pillars. The first pillar we're going to look at is the environment. The gameplay. We want the gameplay to be tense and scary because it's a horror game. The next pillar we're going to have is the only enemy is yourself, meaning that whatever you do, the only one that can defeat you is if you drop the ball or if you just quit the game. Nothing in the game can haunt you. And lastly, we want to have an intriguing storyline for our game so that people will continue to play and actually investigate or discover more interesting stuff happening throughout the game.
So, what are our actual mechanics? So, to finish the game, you need to go around the house and collect 4 of your memory shards, kind of adding to your little memory ball that you've got. We're hoping to have about 9 rooms, but each time only 4 of the rooms in the house will actually have a shard, so you're kind of being forced to explore them all and hope that you get the right ones. Each room is going to have a mini story associated with it, and it's going to be connected to a general theme. All of the rooms are going to have randomized horror events happening in them. So each room might have a specific set of 5 events, only 1 or 2 of which is going to happen in any given game. But you kind of have to go in and experience it regardless to get the memory shards. So again, things that might happen. You might have objects getting knocked over. You might get glimpses of things moving by. Randomly making noise or vibrating the controller to kind of spook you and make you throw it a little bit. Objects that turn and face you when you're not looking at them, like dolls and stuff, or dolls that kind of creep up behind you and turn around to see them all stacked there. Doing things like putting decals on the wall, bloody writing, and all that kind of stuff. I think we'll talk a little bit about this in a second, but we've made a basic framework for kind of getting these going, so it should be easy to add more and have them just fluidly fit in. So for the art, it's probably going to be a 3D game, given that it's in VR. We're planning to use an asset for the house itself, just because the house is big and we want to have a lot of stuff, and we don't think it makes sense to try to model that all ourselves. But we'd like to make most of the props in the house ourselves, if we have the bandwidth for it. If not, worst case, we can always just use assets. We would also like all of our assets to be weird and freaky. So things like dolls, skulls, rotten food, bugs, dirty cobwebs, and also possibly monsters. We don't know if we're going to have much in the way of animation, but it might be something to be fun to toy with, is having little things that kind of move outside windows or creep into the room.
Oh, and also, there will be guns in this game for moral support.
You can't kill anything, but they might just be there.
Yep.
So these are some images kind of what we're thinking of. They show up a little too dark on here, but kind of like dark hallways illuminated by a single light, mannequins and doll pieces hanging all over the place, dirty, grimy rooms with blood on the walls, that kind of stuff. So for music, we want 2 to 3 spooky background musics for each floor. That might be a lot, but if we get the musicians for it, we'll make it, and worst case, we can always scale down. We also would like having some ambient sounds, things to spook the player, loud noises, lightning, and that kind of stuff. It would also be fun to play with procedural music a little bit. We did that on our last project, and it was super cool. And so kind of trying to figure out when the player is feeling scared and ramping up the sound to build that, or telling when something's going to be tense and try to make the music coerce the player into feeling tense. So we don't actually have any sound effects, because I'm sure you guys don't want to listen to doors slamming and babies crying, but these are things that we would like to have.
I think I have a video of all the art access. Is it not here?
Oh, that's right, of the house.
Yeah. I think I remember I did it.
Oh.
Did you
It
delete it?
didn't load on my computer. I thought it was a blank white slide.
That's the video. Alright, anyways. I'm holding a clicker right now, so for those who attended the info session, I was using a Switch controller, and it doesn't work well, so I'm using my phone now. But anyways, the haunted house leverages the advantages of VR, that of being present. You are present in that horror house, that haunted house. But we want to take it a step further. Another advantage of using VR is the feeling of intimacy, of distance. You can actually feel somebody is next to you. And that's why we are introducing haunted house multiplayer mode. In multiplayer mode, one player will be the adventurer, like in the single player mode. We build upon the solid foundation made in the single player mode. And the player will still hold the light torch and try not to drop the ball. And then the player still need to collect 4 memory shards, and also will try not to get scared. However, this time, we have a second player, the ghost. This player will be able to toggle different environmental mechanics to try to scare the adventurer. And then this player can also toggle between invisibility. So they can sneak up to the player and then scare them. And the job of this player, oh, it disappeared, is to try to scare the adventurer. And that is Haunted House multiplayer mode. Next up, let's look at how many people we need for our team. Oh no, my background is not showing up. Wait, is it too dark?
It is. It
Oh, it's too dark, yeah. So it's supposed to be a square here. Imagine it's a square here. So for programmers, we need 2 to 3 experienced programmers and 3 to infinite beginner programmers. So this is actually a beginner-friendly project. You might be wondering, what is a VR? How is it beginner-friendly? That's because for the experienced programmers, we are going to be spending time developing complex backend systems and extendable systems and mechanics. So that the beginners, all you need to do is to either extend the stuff we have already made, or you can just play with the stuff we have made. So it should be very easy for you to get started using Unity and start building levels. And for those who have no VR experience, that's also totally fine. We'll be building some first-person mechanics in the game, so you will be able to test it on PC as well. Maybe not all the interaction, but at least some of the interaction will be testable in PC. And for networking, for the multiplayer mode, we'll be looking for 1 to 2 people who are interested in networking. We'll be using Photon Pong 2 to do our networking, which we already actually have a demo that allows up to 10 people in the same room, and it has 3D audio, 360 audio. And story and writers, we want each room to have a mini story, and then we want all the story to have a thread that connects all the stories. So this is actually a very heavy narrative game. So if you're all here, so anyone here who's interested in writing stories and narrations, come join us. And we also have a position in production. So if you want to learn how to manage your project, this is also the thing for you. For sound designer, we need as much as possible because we'll be making a lot of different cool sound effects. So even if you're a beginner or junior sound designer or musician, we're welcome to join us because, I mean, the worst case scenario, we'll just use some ambient noises. I'm sure you can make some ambient noise, right? So it should be pretty doable. And actually, whatever you make, we can find a way to make it fit into the game because it's a horror game. For art, 3D and 2D artists. For 3D, we'll be using an existing package. And for 2D, we'll maybe want to do some textured or some different sprites. So even if you're a beginner, we welcome you because you can either try to build upon the existing assets we have, or you can try to create some simple assets that will be used in the game. So don't be afraid, join us. And this is the tag we're using. We're going to use Unity 3.17 LTS version with GitHub, and also use Photon Pong 2 for our networking. And then we're going to use all our systems in the game, no matter which mechanic it is. It needs to be extendable, and it needs to be reusable for all the different rooms. Next up, this game is going to be built for Oculus Quest 2. Oh, I used this now.
It's our first jump scare.
Yeah. The game will be built for Oculus Quest 2. It is meant to be a standalone experience. We might expand to other headsets in the future, but currently we're targeting Oculus Quest 2. And our goal is to actually put this in the Oculus Quest store by the end of the semester. Let's look at our timeline.
Speaking of time, we are close.
Oh yeah. Let me rush this through. Today is the pitch fair. And 3 weeks later, we're going to hit our first milestone, alpha. And then 4 weeks after that, we're going to hit our second milestone, beta. And then 5 weeks after that, we're going to hit our final milestone, the release. So in accordance to this timeline, we're going to separate our project to 3 different phases. We're going to try to achieve weekly sprints. What that means is we're going to develop, test, and deploy every week. So we have a playable build by the end of the week. And what that actually works is, let's first look at our first phase, between pitch fair and alpha. So for this phase, we're going to spend the 3 weeks on investing internal tools. What that means is we're going to separate the team to 4 different teams, and then at the end of by alpha, we should have 1 playable room and a library of tools that can be used for future development. So during this phase, the tech team, which is our engineer team, will be focused on developing extendable systems and modular mechanics that can be reused and extended. And for beginners, these 3 weeks are there for you to get familiar with Unity and try to extend some of the mechanics we have. For the art team, we're going to try to make a demo room in VR and make it actually work in VR. And for the story team, we should have try to come up with a main storyline and some of the mini stories, so people can actually, so we can actually integrate these stories later. And lastly, if we have an audio team, we may have some sample music and some sound effects. And this is the first phase, investing in internal tools. For the second phase, we're going to try to make rooms. So this is where things start to get interesting. We're going to have 3 teams this time, and we're going to do 3 sprints. By the end of, by beta, we should have 9 rooms. What that looks like is each team is going to have 2 to 3 programmers, 1 artist, 1 sound designer, and 1 writer. And then each team will be responsible for making a single room every week. And we're going to do this for 3 weeks. So we're going to use the 4th week for integration. So that's why by the end of this phase, we should have 9 playable rooms and integrated. So yeah, the game should be playable and complete by beta. This is our second phase, making rooms by using the extendable systems and reusable systems we made in the previous phase. And in our last phase, we're going to try to focus on polishing, networking, and debugging. So as the name suggests, we're going to try to implement networking features by here. I mean, if somebody here is really interested in networking, feel free to start very early on. You don't have to wait until this week, but this is where we actually start doing this. And we may actually scratch the multiplayer feature if we don't have time and scope for that. So we might actually also, for the rest of people who are not interested in networking, you will be spending this time polishing levels and do tons of playtests to make sure our game actually works. And that's our timeline. And that's our game, content. Thank you so much for listening.
So, will the music be like from Scooby-Doo?
I mean, preferably yes, but due to copyright limitations, probably no.
Just like that.
So in the main gameplay loop you described, it's like, oh, we go into these rooms and they may or may not have a memory shard. Do you anticipate adding things to the effect of minor puzzles or the like, or do you expect it to just be exploration and just hold on?
As of right now, just exploration, but puzzles would be really cool, and that's something that could fit very easily in a framework with a deep top.
Yep.
Yeah, so for the story and narrative, are you taking a Five Nights at Freddy approach, or is it just going to be like a narrator kind of aspect?
Honestly, don't know yet. Neither of us are writers, and so we're kind of just hoping that someone has an overarching idea and comes in really excited about that.
Yeah, these are some of the sample, like we brainstormed about this, but it's not final.
My question was like, will it be interspersed through the rooms? Like, will there be bits of the walls or something like that, which will?
Yeah. So the way there are actually the narrative points is actually through voice acting. So whenever the player pick up in this memory shard, there will be a voice acting telling the player what's happening in this room.
But also, yes, for your direct question, that would be awesome to have like the art stuff line up with the stories of each room.
Yeah.
And that's something we hope to do by having those smaller teams working together on their individual rooms.
Definitely. All right.
So, is it possible to have sort of like how like more beginner coders are working with like experienced coders? If I am a relative beginner at like 3D art, could I still join kind of the art team and help out other like 3D artists?
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
We will take literally everyone of any discipline and any experience level.
Yeah, so essentially, like, if you don't have any strong preference on any of the teams, join us. We're pretty sure there's something for you. And also, just before I answer the question, just one last thing. If you are scared of horror games, if you hate the jump scares, then you should join us, because you can get to scare other people.
Let's go.
It all depends here. I think we'll do 2 more questions.
Do 2 more, and then come talk to us after, please.
Exactly.
We'll answer as many questions as you have.
Who raised the hand first? I think you did, right?
Yeah, so you mentioned procedural music, right? Do you have a specific engine in mind for that?
So the last time we used Fmod to do it in Unity, and it was awesome. So probably that again.
Cool. I think you did?
Yeah.
What is the size of the room? Is it going to be like a normal room, or is it more like an full environment that takes actual time to walk through?
I think it depends, because like if you think of a normal bedroom, that's like the size we're going with. But it also depends on the individual teams. If they want to make it bigger, and if our server can handle it, or if our headset computing power can handle it, then we'll do it. Yeah. All right.
Right. Yeah.
So,
if you have more questions, please come grab us afterwards.
Cool. Thank you.
We ran over. Yeah. Sorry about
Power
that.
beats.
Yeah.
You guys are abusing your power. I know we're abusing it.
Aber ist durch.
Okay, great. It's doing the right thing. Okay, well, I'm just going to get started. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be presenting today. This game is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, so yeah, this is going to be great. This is Lingua Litis. So a little bit about me. I'm a senior studying ECE, minoring in game design. I love sushi. I love anime. I've done programming and I've done music. So I started off in music in GCS, and then I eventually just started doing programming the whole time. Yeah, and then those are just some screenshots of some stuff I've done. So Lingua Litis, what is it? Well, I love words. I like Scrabble, and Scrabble's really fun. I love Bookworm, if you've ever played that. It's kind of an older game. Yes, that game is so good. That's actually in the slides, so we're going to see it in a sec. And I love wizards. That's the second thing. So words and wizards. That's the shtick with this game. So Lingua Litis is a wizard word battle game where there's two wizards. They're doing their wizard battle thing, and it's 2-player versus. And each turn you have to spell a word to like cast a spell. So the deal is like the type of word that you spell determines the damage that you do with each, wizardy thing. But exactly how the damage is calculated, well, we can have the game designer think about that. Because, someone in the audience mentioned there's Bookworm Adventures. If you've ever played that game, the word damage is calculated based off of the length of the word pretty much, and also if you use like obscure letters like Z or W, those letters count more. But it doesn't have to be this way. So like the game designer, you can think of all sorts of ways to make words count differently. Like for example, just off the top of my head, like if a word is more obscure, like for example, you can have a dictionary that says how commonly the word is used in English, and then we can use that to determine how powerful the word is, rather than just the length itself. Things like that. All right, so the core mechanics of the game, it's pretty much like the idea of spelling words and dealing damage that is encapsulated in Bookworm Adventures. This game is amazing. You should play it. I highly recommend it. Actually, I think you can't even buy this game anymore because they took it off of it's made by PopCap Games. They took it off their store for whatever reason. I don't know why, but you can probably download it somewhere. Anyway, though, so yeah, the idea is that at the bottom here, can you see my cursor? Yes. There's tiles. There's 16 of them, and you can spell words, and then like the word pops up there, and then you can't see it, but there's a button. You hit it, and then the word gets sent off, and then it does damage to whatever that is. But I don't want Lingua Litis to be a clone of this. Like, I want to take the spelling words dealing damage, but maybe we don't need power-ups, for example. We don't need like these. This is like the AI battling against you, so we can try to play around with these things and change them a bit, so we can make this game a little bit more unique. So in terms of the team, we would need at least 3 programmers. This is definitely beginner friendly, but with the caveat being that I'd love to have a mix of people. Like I want beginners, but I also do want a couple like more advanced people too, just so we can get some of the core stuff going. We are starting from square one, which means that there is no base code. But I don't think that's too much of a big deal because a lot of this game, like you could make this game in a terminal if you really wanted to, right? So like the programming is kind of on the simpler side, I would say. But the fun part is actually adding in all of the extra stuff and making it really like juicy and just a really fun experience. So for art, I'm hoping for at least 2 people. I'm not really set on a particular art style. The idea that I was having at the moment is pixel art. just because it's easy and kind of fun, and you can make like cool wizardy pixel stuff easily. I feel like it's kind of hard to draw spells. I'm not a 2D artist, so I don't really know how hard it is to draw stuff. So this is just me kind of guessing how hard it would be, and then going like, okay, pixel art, right? Because that would be easy. But if you want to do something else, go for it. But yeah, the main things we need letter tiles, user interface, maybe some animations if we want, extra character art. Here's a really quick mood board. So all of these were grabbed from the internet. But the thing that is in common is like this art is super easy to draw. It's just I like the aesthetic of the wizards having like robes and elemental powers and stabs. I think that would be a cool thing we can kind of carry through. But again, like the visual aspect of this game, I think is open to interpretation. It doesn't need to necessarily be the traditional Harry Potter wizard. Like we can kind of play around with that. It could be like the Doctor Strange type wizard where there's not like a staff, but like weird hand symbols and glyphs and stuff. Like I'd love to see we can make some ideas with that and we can kind of talk about it. So for sound, at least one person. I'd love some magical battle music, whatever that means. If we want the battle to feel really intense and like kind of epic, then we can have some epic battle music. If we want maybe to shift the art direction and like the mood of the game into something more chill, then we can have like some chill, maybe orchestral type music. It really depends. I want to kind of make the feel of the game be something we decide together. The one thing though that is kind of important, hold on one second, is the tile selection sound effect. So in Bookworm Adventures, whenever you're spelling a word, it's like as you spell the word, if it's a valid word, it'll make like this kind of sparkle noise. I couldn't find a reference that wasn't like in a weird place of like someone playing it through, so I'm not going to show it to you. But basically, like this tile sound, the better the word you spell, it gets like more sparkly, more exciting. So if we can somehow get like a exciting word spell sound, that would be really cool. So I want the sound designer to focus on battle music, but then also this tile selection sound, because I feel like that sound in particular is important for the game feeling fun and juicy. So here's a little sound mood board. This is just some battle music. I'll just play it for a second. Oh, right. Okay, let's see. Sorry, people on Twitch, I don't think they're going to hear this, but... So that's one direction, right? You know, Final Fantasy, it's super epic, super magical, super, like, I don't know, fun. And then this is a different direction. Yeah, so that's like really peaceful, really ambient. I feel like those are two contrasting themes that we could go for. We can go in the epic battle direction, or we could go into like the chill direction. I feel like a chill wizard battle would be kind of cool to do, because usually they are pretty flashy, but maybe we can make it chill and really cool to play still. I don't know, we have to think about it. Oh, and this last one is, well, I'll just show it to you, yeah. Yeah, so I love that sound. I think a lot of people recognize that sound. The reason why I'm putting this in here is because, like, whoever the musician is, or maybe we have multiple musicians, I'd love if you can encapsulate the magical, orchestral, organic vibe. That's kind of what that puzzle solve sound, I feel like, is encapsulating. It's very magical, it's very fun, it's very kind of playful. So that would be something to think about. All right, so here are some stretch goals for this game. Programming, we can make it online. Right now it's going to be local, just so we can keep it simple, because adding online is like adding twice as much work. And then art, just some more characters. Right now it could literally be as simple as like one wizard, one is like the same drawing but blue, the other one's the same drawing but red, and those are the two characters. That's all we need for now. And then if we have more time, we can just add more. And then sound, yeah, just adding more effects, adding more music in different contexts, that would be really great. Maybe even, so this is like an additional thing, but if the game designer is thinking about different ways we can calculate damage of words, you know, maybe we have one character calculate damage in like this wizard, the complexity of the word is what like the damage is from. Or maybe this other wizard, it has something to do with like the number of syllables. Or maybe this other wizard, it has something to do with like the obscurity of the word. And then maybe those different wizard types are reflected in the sounds. That would be kind of cool. So that's something that we can kind of incorporate too. But that's it. So anyone have any questions, you can ask now or email me.
Is there kind of like a narrative that you go through as you progress through the game, or is it more just like they focus on the back and forth between the players?
Yeah, so the question was, is there a narrative? Right now, the answer is no, but I'm cool with adding one. I didn't put it in the presentation because I want to keep the game in scope, but it's definitely something we could add.
And the question, since you said that you wanted to distinguish it from other games of this type, how open are you in your vision of it to incorporate things like stats, passives, damage types, that sort of thing in the damage calculation, so that there is more of a meta game, quote unquote, behind it? What are your thoughts on that? Or do you want to keep it more about the words and just obscure words, complex words? Where do you think you see this?
Yeah, so the question is adding like a metagame or adding stats to the damage calculation. I think that's a great idea. So that'd be cool. I'm totally open to that. I'm not too set on specifically like keeping it just at words. I just want the game to be about spelling words and dealing damage, but however we arrive there, that's totally fine. Yeah.
So you keep mentioning the presentation about like game designer role, but I noticed they never put it up, so I'm wondering like how you are looking to do the game design part.
Right, there was no game design slide. That is mostly a presentation thing and not so much like there's no game design role thing. There is a role for game designer. Yes, you can be a game designer. I'm also thinking we don't need specifically one person to be a dedicated game designer. If you want to be a programmer and a game designer, you know, cool. Or if we don't have a game designer, then we can all just kind of meet and talk about it. But yeah, if someone wants to be the specific game designer for this team, that's great. Yeah, feel free to come. I know that it wasn't in the slides, but we definitely need game design work on this team, for sure. How many questions?
Maybe the last one.
Just are the battles timed? Like do you have a time limit to
Yeah, so the question is, are the battles timed? Right now, that is to be determined. That's a game design question. I mean, the timing really will make a huge difference in how the game's played. So Bookworm Adventures is not timed. But if we want this to be like an intense battle game, well, maybe it is timed. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
Cool. Thank you so much. And for those who have pitched and who are going to pitch, please send me like the slides link to me so I can add to our participation form. And for those who are leaving now, like we're gonna send a participation form in the general chat. So if you want to join a game this semester, please fill out the form. And we're also gonna record a session, so all right.
We thought it was going to be an hour and a half, but then...
You want to get started?
Yeah, so this is our game idea. It's called Manhunt. alternate reality hide and seek. But before we get started, a bit about us. We're both freshmen in SCS, and we're both from the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, I made a game in the past called Tanks the Crusades. I'm still working on it, I guess, but it's released on Steam. I know that.
And well, I've done a little bit of game engine development, not so much with actual gameplay itself, but it's something.
So we were walking along the CMU campus in the evenings during orientation, and you were just like, wow, this campus would be such a nice place to just play hide and seek with like everyone here, or a lot of people. So imagine just playing hide and seek on a scale as large as CMU with hundreds of people, or a region of a city, a big park, something like that. So our idea is a point-based hide and seek game with a few extra twists.
So these are some very rudimentary mock-ups of what the interface might look like. It's not going to require very much art, just basic 2D graphics that need to be presentable and usable. Again, people are getting up and going outside and interacting with the environment around them. So we want to use their mobile devices as a tool to help them play this game and to take care of the points and scoring for them.
Yes, so there's a few game mechanics here that are important to know. First of all, there's a geofence, a perimeter around the game field, which is set before the game begins. And it will alert players if they exit it that they have left the playing field, and if they don't return, they'll be kicked from the game. And the game will end, just like a regular game of hide and seek, when everyone is found, or when a certain time limit has ended, because you don't want games to go on for hours upon hours. There will be alerts sent to people near the end of the game that the game will end in, say, 5 minutes or so. I think I can present this one too. So here's how players get points. If you're a seeker, your goal is to find hiders. Every hider you find will give you a certain number of points, and the points are individual. If there are less hiders remaining, you'll get more points because it's harder to find hiders. Now, as a hider, the time you spend hidden will give you more points. So every minute you stay hidden and not found, say you can get 1 more point. When you are found, you'll get a certain number of points based on your rank, whether you were found first or 100th or whatever. And also, when you spend time near seekers as the hider, you'll be getting points because you're in a sort of danger. So this encourages players to take risks and hide themselves in places which aren't completely cut off from everything else in society. It will make the game run a bit faster as a result too. And the last way to get points is by getting near hotspots, which will be covered in a slide later. Also, when hiders are caught, they'll become seekers and they can get points as a seeker. There will be a leaderboard too at the end of the game for everyone.
Yeah, so these are the hotspots aforementioned. These are essentially points marked by the game host, essentially saying, hey, if you come here, you get extra points, right? And it's relatively risky places to hide. So a good example would be like the fence on campus, right? There's not a lot of good places to hide around that. So if you were to mark that as like a hotspot, people would coalesce around it, but they'd get points, but it would also be super easy to find somebody.
Yeah, to add to that, the hiders will have a sort of compass that points to a few near hotspots, so they can know exactly, where they can go if they don't have to get extra points if they want to take a risk. For joining games, it's pretty simple. Here's how it works. There's a person who's the party host who creates a game ahead of time. And the host sets up the settings of the party. For example, where it will take place, how long it will last, where the hotspots are. And then when the time is set to begin, everyone can join the game with a code, as you can see here on the right. The host can also create a rule book specific to the place you're in. For example, if you're in CMU, the host might want to say, obey all rules here, and don't go into steam tunnels, for example, and get baked alive. That would be bad. So, yeah, this is just a set of rules that everyone will have to read and agree to before joining the game officially.
guess, some basic drawings of what the entering into the game might look like. There's a title screen where you enter in a code for whatever game you want to join. You'll see the name of the game, where it's at, when it is, and some rules for the game, again, specified by the host. You enter a username and upload an image so people know what you look like. I mean, the image uploading is obviously optional, but if you're playing with strangers, you might want to put your face so people know like what you look like. And then you just go into a waiting room until the game starts.
Yeah, and for roles, we'll need 2 to 3 server-side backend developers and 2 to 3 client-side front-end developers who develop like interface and stuff for that.
And in terms of experience, the server side, it's probably going to be in Python. So ideally, you touch Python or some other programming language and are fairly like some proficient at least in like some language and can like learn Python quick, like or know you can pick up another language easily. And for the front end, what language do you think it's probably going to be in?
We're thinking about maybe Unity, or it could be some sort of JavaScript web app too, maybe, but maybe not. We don't know entirely yet. But it will be something that's mobile friendly that can run on both iOS and Android, hopefully.
So yeah, any questions? Yeah.
Like idea, question about hotspots. How do you expect they'll be defined? Because different places will have different what you can count as hotspots. So how do you think
Yes, so when the host creates a game, the host will have to like walk up to the hotspots or like, you know, mark them out manually. And basically, when the game starts, it'll only use the hotspots that the host defined. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you had a question.
I guess just like as a question of security, like how do you limit the times where the app can access location? Like if you forget to turn it off, for example.
Yeah, so the app, we're planning to only request location access while it's open. And then also like on the server side, there's nothing actually going to be like stored like long term. It's pretty much all going to be in RAM, and whenever the session closes, it's all done. So there's nothing to be stored. Yeah.
And then so since like CMU is such like a multi-level campus, like is the tracking based more on like proximity to other users, or is it based on location? Like since elevation is such an issue.
Yeah, so the tracking is probably going to be GPS based, but GPS height is very inaccurate, and so it's difficult to, I guess, say exactly how well that will be able to handle that. But I think that will be more of a feature rather than a bug, you know, because it adds a little bit of complexity, right? We don't want to lead the seekers right to where somebody's standing.
And we did mention when you're relatively near to the hider, both people will have a sort of I found the other person button, but like you won't actually see the precise location. It'll just be a sort of general area that you'll know. So you still have to do the finding. It's just so that if someone is far off on the other side of campus and there's no one else hiding near you, you'll know which way to go. Yeah, any other questions? Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, I think that's pretty much all the time we have.
Oh, okay.
So if you guys have any more questions, please reach out to them. If you guys can send a slide in the general chat or just like leave your like Discord message and people can reach out, that would be great.
Thank you.
Cool. And we have 3 more pitches left. All right, 3 pitches left. So please stay. All right. Yeah. So we usually got like 6 to 7 pitches each semester. This one we got 8, so 9. So careful along like pitch fair.
Everyone, so my name is Amy, and I'm going to talk about this multiplayer first-person shooter game called Project Sapphire. A little bit about me: I'm a sophomore CS major. The first semester of my freshman year, I worked on Blade. I did Unreal Engine multiplayer programming, and last semester I worked in Professor Lindbar's lab. I did a study with VR. And nowadays, I'm not coding, I'm probably playing Valorant or scripting things closed. So what is this idea of like multiplayer MMO first person shooter? So I think most people have seen like the Mario or Sugar.io, or like Conquer.io even. It's just like you open like a website, you type your name into it, and then you can just start eating people, killing people, shooting people, whatever. And usually there's like a scoreboard of who has the most points or kills, and then if you die, you get reset to 0. So that's kind of what the concept is, except it's going to be a 3D shooter instead of like blocks and not a multiplayer. And I'm going to make that shooter hopefully with Unity and mirror networking. I wanted to say that we were going to be the first multiplayer Unity game, but I think that is not right anymore because I think Haunted is also Unity. Yeah, so what I hope to achieve by release, what the game will look like. So we'll have one map. Hopefully it'll be one symmetrical map with 3 like spawning points or environments, regions, I guess. And each region will be a different. So one of them could be a building or a castle, the other could be a forest, something like that. I want some nice clean UI, nice animations for the character, the weapon, sidearm, and the knife. Right now, I'm just thinking it would be nice to have just one model if it's really, really nice, polished looking and clean. But if we get a lot of people, I'm always down to have a lot more knives, a lot more character models. And the last point here is just a lot of technical words to say that like hopefully by alpha we can like load the game onto a website that other people can see. And you can share that link with other people if you want to. Here on this side I have would be nice, so if we got like a lot of people working on the team, or if for some reason we were really efficient, more than one character or gun would be really cool. And my dream would be if we could have a system, like a shop maybe, where if you get kills, you get money. With money you can buy different types of guns, snipers, assault rifles, stuff like that. And the last bit, AI bots. I guess it would be nice if, if there is not more than like 100 people logged on at once. You can have some bots that are already in the game that you can like shoot for on, I guess. Yeah, so the visual inspiration for this, I have one slide for the map. So earlier I mentioned that the map is going to have 3 environments, and so each column is like what I have in mind for each environment right now. I mainly drew my inspiration from like Made in Abyss, which is that slide. It's an anime, and this is Gris, which is like a 2D video game. So this picture is like not as similar as the other ones, but that has a very strong visual impact, like the name. I think these photos are from Wordle Engines, and then these are just other random photos I found. But generally, this is what each environment will look like. I'm thinking that these are, like, I'm pretty happy with these ideas, but if for some reason every artist on the team decides, like, oh, this castle idea is pretty lame, and we should have a coral reef instead, that's fine with me. But I just want to emphasize that, to me, it's kind of important that the map that we have is, like, very immersive, very high-quality looking. I don't need a huge map. I don't need a lot of different things going on, but if it feels good, that's kind of the goal. I have another slide here for UI, character, gun inspiration. I guess for the map, most of that was kind of like environmental nature themed. For these UI, I kind of want a minimalistic idea, something kind of nice and clean, not very distracting. In terms of characters, these are like more fantasy or like older designs, I guess. This is like the most modern I would go probably. Nice six-pack abs there. These guns, these would be nice. I don't know if we're going to achieve this level of detail, but that would be really great. Some Valorant skins. Alright, so I do have a little bit of game code already. If you guys have a GitHub or want to look at it, this is the GitHub link. So what I do have is that the challenge of like Unity networking multiplayer is that like even if you have like your single player game coded up, if somebody else just like spawns into the world, if you only coded it with single player in mind, like you're not, even if you're one player and you feel like you're in the world, you're not going to see that other person. You're not going to see them move or shoot anything. So my base code is sort of setting up the multiplayer aspect of making sure when you look at someone, you can see that they're moving, you can see that they're animated, you can see that if you shoot them, they're going to feel the shot. So who we need? 2 to 3 programmers. I have here no experience required because I'm pretty comfortable with coding myself, and so I feel like I can sort of
But there's no shortage of technically difficult tasks or technically easy tasks. So don't feel like just because you have a lot of experience you can't program with us. One UI artist. There was a bit of UI in the previous slide. At an early stage, it will be nice to have just generally where everything is going to go, where the health, the damage is going to go. That's mocked up, maybe by alpha, which is only 3 weeks in. But in the last like 8 weeks or so, it would just be nice if we had one set of really polished UI. And I don't think that's an entire semester's worth of work, so if the UI artist wanted to be another role, I would be totally fine with that. One level designer, so for people who play a lot of FPS, like FPS and maps, being well designed, having a lot of angles, the balance of open space, closed space, is actually like really important. So when I say experience preferred, like if you have some Blender or Maya experience, that's really great. But honestly, if you just play a lot of video games, you play a lot of FPS, if you have a strong vision for where each box should go on the map, like I'm totally good with that. You do not need a lot of art experience to be a level designer. So one optional art lead. I am a sophomore. I am mostly a programmer, so I'm fully prepared to do whatever it takes to lead the game. But if someone maybe older in the club does feel really comfortable being art lead, they feel like they have a strong vision for this game, I think that would be something that would help everyone on the team. So if you are interested in this position, like come find me, message me on Discord, let me know sooner than later. And then 3 to 4 animators, modelers. I think these people would primarily be working on the map. So if we did have an art lead, that 3 to 4 could be 3 to 6 maybe. And when it comes to experience, I have here preferred but not required because I personally am not as comfortable with art as coding, so I might not be like a good mentor figure. But if you feel like you really want to learn how to use Blender, how to use Maya, you feel really like motivated in that sense, then I'm totally fine you just working on the map as well. I'm a musician, so I don't have tracks queued up, but if you guys are interested, if you listen to the Gris soundtrack, this is the video game for that, or the Made in Abyss soundtrack, which is the 3 very cute animated characters up there. Those are sort of the vibe I'm looking for, the music I'm hoping to shoot. And last but not least, sound designer. I think that would be really nice, depending on how big our map ends up. For example, if we have a cave with waterfalls, it would be really nice to have some background waterfall noise. If we're walking through a forest, that kind of like shuffling sound, I guess. Just, I think that would add a lot to the immersiveness and the quality of the game in general. Yeah, that's all I had. Are there any questions? I saw Brandon.
Yeah. So is this gonna be more like a large deathmatch, like Gate is?
What I had in mind is just you get kills and there's a leaderboard that goes up. Basically deathmatch, yeah.
That answered my question.
Oh, just asking, are you looking for more, you mentioned you play Valorant, so are you thinking of a more tactical shooter that focus based on the surrounding the map, or are you thinking more of a movement shooter that focus on traversing the environment? Since you also mentioned a lot about environmental design, you mentioned Made in Abyss, which does a lot of especially versatile environment they can traverse, so I was wondering which direction you're thinking to go to.
In my mind, I have it being the second one, so environment. That's also because I don't have the tactical sauce in me. If the level designer wants to be someone who's really interested in that kind of thing, then by all means. But as a default, probably environment.
You didn't really mention what type of FPS you wanted. Did you want like CS:GO or did you want Call of Duty?
Oh, more like CS:GO.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask something similar, like more CS:GO or more Team Fortress, like in the vibe.
More like CS:GO and Valorant.
My previous question was kind of about that because you have more CS:GO type of tactical shooter that would require you have a more map design that is less focused on movement speed, right? You more be focused on the aim and like try to traverse slowly to get through the map. I was wondering how would that compare?
To clarify, I haven't played some of the other games that were suggested.
Oh.
So my point being, it's an environment shooter. I don't have like personally the tactical mind to put up like a map like that. But if you guys did and you wanted to be a level designer, then by all means.
We're gonna pick one last question.
Yeah.
Would you like compare it to Azario and Soda IO? And how
was wondering if like it would have if you would have in mind a positive feedback of like those games kind of like you do better in the game that you become more likely to win one particular major or you
Yeah. So if we did get to a point where we could have a shop and you could buy guns, then I totally see that being possible. But right now, to keep it in scope, probably not.
Cool. Wait, I have a question. What is currently done right now in your GitHub?
Oh yeah. Motion or character motion replication, animation replication, and shooting replication. Almost done. One of the spider systems.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, since you've been here, and I have to do this. Welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, so let me grab Sebastian for us. Sebastian.
What?
It's good. Sorry, I was gonna ask.
Oh, not just. Oh, okay. So the producer will be Shivani Kaplan, leading daily team stand-up, and also follow up with people to make sure the stuff that they know, and then like maintain the timeline mode, which is like how we're trying to format. And I think it's the most day-to-day task.
This is mine. I left it there.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Good.
I really hope.
All right.
Yay!
Woo! Woo!
Yeah.
Okay. I know we've been through a lot of pitches, but like just try to pay attention to this one. Okay, so hello, my name is Kevin.
My name is Alex.
And today we're going to discuss this game that we call Project Verbo.
AKA Hangman Battle Royale. Okay, so first we'll talk a little bit about ourselves. So my name is Alex. I'm an SCS. I'm planning to do AI, and I'm a freshman. So I've had some past experience in game development, and specifically Java. So for example, I've recreated a bunch of games, like Pac-Man, Chess, and Uno. I've also created some original games, like this game called Grapple Block. I also have some experience in Unity. So for example, I recreated sort of a procedural generation Minecraft clone.
So as you already know, I'm Kevin, and I'm a freshman in CIT, so I might do EC, and I also double major CS, who knows. And I'm a gamer. I love to game. I used to like play Asphalt 9, CSR, and even Brawl Stars. I'm pretty sure everyone here has heard of Brawl Stars. In fact, I was so good that I was like in like the top 1,100 in basically all of these games. And then Brawl Stars I even got to compete in like the eSport qualifier. Also, I love to code. I love to build games. So I was able to like participate in this MIT hackathon where I was able to help build this color painting game. Where basically many people from like all over the world can color on this type of website, and they can all work together to make this one big art using a singular block. And this is all saved via account. So I was able to learn about servers. I was able to learn about like rockets and like web development, specifically within the hackathon. Also, I've built a Google extension before, and I've also built Wheel of Fortune in Java. I'm also a YouTuber, so that gave me like the experience to learn graphic designs. So I was able to learn like graphic design, animation a bit using Adobe Suite. plus understood like the idea of search engine optimizations, like those sort of like logistical stuff in order for you to like make a game or make any product successful, really.
So, you have to ask, what makes most games fun? And there's only one answer. The people. But you can only get so far with bots. A real competition, and you get real fun when playing 1v1 and 1v many other people on a global scale. There have been many successful games that have implemented this idea, such as Gartic Phone, Among Us, and Scribble.io. But there's also one thing in common with all these games. They replicate classic games we all know and love. So for example, Among Us is like Mafia, and Scribble.io is like Pictionary. That's why we decided to implement this idea with, again, Hangman Battle Royale.
So we're gonna go over like the logistics or schematics of the game. So basically, it's going to be an online multiplayer game. So it's going to be like a lot of people in it. We're gonna use like a family-friendly dictionary so that it like through API so that it like removes like any of the profane words so that basically anybody can use it, like including children and adults. Plus, we hope this is like integrated very nicely into Discord because then it allows people all over the world to play at the same time and have this very nice, connective, strategic, fun game together. So now we're going to go over like basically how we make this a battle royale. So first, we're going to have a mystery word. And then after the mystery word, we're going to have like letters A through Z. And what you're going to do is you're essentially going to pick a letter. So in this case, you were to pick H. So if you pick the majority letter or you pick the correct one, so you pick H, then you're good. Nothing really happens. But if you were to pick the wrong or the minority letter, so like in this case you pick H, but it's wrong, the correct letter was S, well then basically you get a hangman. And well, anyway, after that, we have the special part where it's elimination. So basically what you see is this, you have the word or like the mystery word with the clue, and then you basically guess the word. So you were to guess superfluous, or so like that's the actual word. And then you were to guess like superstitious, some other person were to guess supplemental, and some other person were to guess soldering. Then what would happen is that the word that was least similar to the actual word will get not only a hangman, but they're completely out. And everybody else stays in the game. So basically, that's like the overall schematics of our battle royale, where basically everyone votes and the majority rules. Everyone guesses a word. Whoever has the least similar word is out. And we repeat this until the winner. So then it slowly gets smaller, smaller, smaller until it's an epic 1v1 battle.
So in terms of art and music, we're going to continue the theme of very family-friendly vibe. So by this, we mean very colorful, very soft, a lot of round edges, and very light. We also want to keep it very simple, but again, elegant. So really, we're looking for sort of more a graphic design type feel. In terms of options for artists, if you want to go further in the game, we sort of think of implementing customizable characters. So for example, instead of just a boring stick figure hangman, you can make a robot, or like a superhero, or a monster. And then in terms of music, we're sort of thinking one in two ways. Either, very upbeat, sort of, if you sort of think of Kahoot, that type of music, or you can think of classical, very light and very, thoughtful.
Or you can think of
in terms of UI, there's two main components. So first, the letter picking component. So sort of imagine this, but a little more colorful, and then of course instead of numbers, letters. And in terms of guessing a word, again, a little more lightful, and a little more colorful, but you write in the sentence here and you guess the word. So in terms of team, we're looking for 3 different groups of people. We're looking through for 2 to 5 artists, and specifically, again, like we said, in the range of graphic designer, but of course, like any artists are welcome. And we're not really experienced in art, so we'd like to get some sort of artist leader to be able to manage the other artists. We also like around 4 to 7 people for coding. We plan on doing the project in Unity, but it's not required to have any background experience. Since we plan to put this on the web using itch.io, we prefer some web experience, but again, it's not required. And then, for everything, beginners welcome. In terms of music, we're looking for background music, we're looking for like main theme music, and we're also looking for a few sound effects, like button clicks and like cheerful noises.
So basically, the timeline is that hopefully we have like a local, not online version, and we have graphic designs, and we're going to have 3/5 of the semester. We're going to have an alpha like web version. 3/4 of the semester, hopefully full graphic design using integration in any important updates, and then end of semester, yay, we finished it. It's released online. Yeah, so like we basically want to learn more about like how to make web games and multiplayer games, and it's important to note that we actually are going to put it online if we're to fully complete it. So yeah.
And thank you all for listening, and we would like to take any questions. Yes.
Quick question. In the guessing phase of this game where everyone's throwing in a word that is needed, can everybody see what the words are, or is information hidden from everyone else? So if I guess superstitious and you guess sauntering, do I know that you guess sauntering?
Not until everyone has already guessed. Like while you're in the guessing phase, you can't see anyone else's.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a max number of players, or how many players do you expect in a game?
Well, that kind of depends upon the size of the server that we get access to. For example, like we both know some servers can like hold up to 500 people, and I mean like that also is dependent upon the search engine optimization. How can we get that many people to actually care to play the game? So I guess people like to start small, like around 100. So I don't know if there'll be a local server or not. I just know big servers exist. And so after that, if it really gets popular, because like Snake.io, for example, only got popular because of PewDiePie. If that were to happen, then bigger server.
Yes.
So I might have missed this earlier, but are you planning to do this in any specific engine?
Okay, so right now we're planning on doing in Unity. In terms of servers, we're sort of thinking of itch.io, which if you look at the GCS website, many games have like online multiplayer on the website. Yes?
Yeah, so like, is there any plan for working on the Discord integration within like the project duration? Or like, is it gonna be like something separate that you guys are gonna work on after the project is done?
Please ask that one more time.
Oh, so like I'm curious about the Discord integration that you guys mentioned. So like, are you guys
Like the idea of the Discord integration is just like the game is set in a way that allows people to use Discord to like play. So like when you like Discord, you can just share your screen, right? So like two people can be working together to like share, like two people can be working in a voice chat together about figuring out what word would be really hard for them to guess, for like the other opposing team to guess, and they're just sharing the screen and they're discussing. That's like the Discord integration. Like Gartic Telephone. Like Gartic Telephone is not necessarily natively Discord. Like you have to use Discord.
Cool. Want to take one last question?
So just to clarify on that last point, so when you said Discord integration, you mean the sense of having a voice chat or something where it could be compatible with it, not in the sense of like a widget for Discord.
No.
Or something.
Although now that you put that.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to have our last pitch at the pitch fair. Orbit shift.
I almost did actually. What? I almost said center.
I think only seen him last year, but.
Hello everyone, I would like to introduce my game concept. It is called the Orbit Shift. And first I would like to make an introduction. I'm a bachelor's degree of software engineering. I had 4.5 years working experience as a front-end developer, and I used to work in ByteDance before, developing web pages for the internal systems. If you know the TikTok, then it is. And I have little Unity development experience during my undergraduate day. So this is my personal information. And about the game mechanics of the Orbit Shift, this game is actually the main objective is the game is to achieve some kind of VR, virtual reality, realistic spaceship travel and battle mechanism. The basic game style and the mechanism can be referred to an existing game which is already on the Steam that is called The Children of the Dead Earth. I will demonstrate a part of the concept through the first trailers. This is the orbit planning. You get a spaceship, you go to somewhere, and you need to plan the orbits which runs in the real science and in physics. Like the spaceships, and all the spaceship will be based on the real engineering principles and in the real size and skills compared to the moons. This part, I will skip this part. And then it will be the realistic style spaceship battles. You can see this ship is being hammered by the real guns fired by the others. And this is one of the spaceships that is firing. Spaceship in purple, the original game's combat experience. And this will be its design battle scene. One of the ship getting hit hard and was getting hit by missiles and get torn apart. So that will be the. So by this video, I believe everyone will have a primary feeling about the games I was trying to design. And for the game style, the original game is a highly scientifically accurate spaceships combat games. And based on that, I have my own goals in designing the orbit ship. First, I want to, but as you can see from the trailers, the original graphic design and the sense of immersion of the original game is very low. If you look at through the trailer, you can just see some kind of toys-like ships circling around the orbits and shooting some laser with each other. So in order to make the games more immersive and more exciting, the first goal of my game will be to allow, like there will be a preparation phases where you will wear that VR headset and it will be placed, you know, in some kind of a space shipyard, and you can actually inspect your spaceship in a realistic 1.1 scale under the VR implement. Let's imagine you have a 200-meter long spaceship armed with real guns and the lasers and the nuclear missiles that is about to launch from the Earth's orbit to invade other planets. And then in the preparation phases, you can read the mission debrief, and then you can stand on the spaceship's platform and watch your huge ships just floating above you, and with small mechanism and the turbines running. That will provide the first immersive view for the players to know what kind of spaceship they're going to operate. And the second goal is to implement some kind of VR of the orbit planning interfaces. During the video trailers, you will already see that we have orbit planning interfaces where you need to plan how your orbit travel from one planet to go to another, and how your spaceship is going to catch up with enemy spaceship into the combat range of your weapons. And the third goal is to implement the spaceship battle, the guns, the lasers, and the missiles fire. They all will be fired in an automatically controlled algorithm. During the combat, most of the weapons will be operated automatically because you know it is impossible for a man to operate a gun to aim a spaceship that travel at several thousand miles a second. So, but during the combat, there's also things for the player to do. Players can, you know, switch to the cameras directly to the weapons that are fired, to inspect them, to see them, how these weapons are fired. And also, I was talking about the missiles. Once some missiles has been launched from your spaceship, you can also switch to the view of a missiles. Like you can just suddenly being teleported to the top of the missiles, and you can watch these missiles being launched from your spacecraft and travel in the dark distances, and the enemy spaceships gradually came closer to you and immediately run into it. So the first stage of the orbit ship will be the inspecting ship. The players can view the spaceship in some kind of a space station within the VR environment. On the right side, on the left side of this slide, you can see we have an interior of a space station. So first of all, we will be inspecting spaceship in the VR, and second, have a large space warship, and we can inspect them in the VR view. And the second of all, it will be the VR orbit planning. During the game, player will be in the cabin of the spaceship, planning the orbit of the spaceship. as this is the the cabin of the spaceship, the interior. A hologram 3D map will be shown in front of the players to demonstrate how they can interact with this orbit and planet. So here is another video for you. This is part. Can everyone see this? This is another project called Universe Sandbox, but it demonstrated effects I would like to implement. As you can see, there is a planet here, an orbit, and the players are just using the VR hand sticks to interact with them. Their orbit, their planet, they can see it with this hologram. And that will be the interfaces for the player to adjust the course of the spaceships. And the player to see. Also, as here you can see that there's a window on your spaceship capsule, right? Another feature I would like to ask is you can see through the cabin window to watch the space scenes change based on your location in the ships in real time. Let's just imagine if you are traveling on an orbit travel from Earth to the Mars, and after you set your planet orbit and your ship begins moving, you can actually see through the windows next to you to see the Earth gradually become smaller and far away. And after a long time, the red planet will be seen, and it will gradually become larger and larger and fill your entire web and fill your entire viewport. The space battle will be the final part. When you have tried to control your ships to move close to the enemy ships, the battle will automatically begin. The real guns and the lasers will be fired. Weapons and missiles will be fired automatically following some simple tracking algorithm because it will be too much burden for the players to control. And also you can switch to the wheels of the guns. Sorry, like this. A simple example for this. Like this kind of gun wheel. And after all that, I will be just try to illustrate the development chalk points of my program. The main workload here will be the VR programming and debugging in the Unity. It will be a challenging development procedures. We also have the textures and art design for the ships and the planets, and the sound effects for the spaceships and battle. But it will be relatively easy because you won't have too many object and game elements in a space battle game. They're just planet, ships, and that's it. And finally, we will need to design some kind of a math algorithm for the realistic orbit planning and the weapon tracking algorithms. So for my project, I will need some of these crews. First, I will need 2 to 3 programmers. I would like to prefer someone with a VR kit, like Index or Oculus, and some Unity experience, which can help them to develop and debug the game in a real scenario. Also, one 3D artist to design the scenes, ships, and models. Since our art design of this game is actually quite simple, they don't need to actually design the scenes. They can tell us how to pick the right assets from the Unity asset store, which should have a lot of the model assets and sound effects like this. The audio artists in the same time. And the roadmap for our project, we would like to, in a 4 to 5 months time scale, to finish a minimal viable product of this. We would like to start with, we have 2 or 3 simple pre-designed ships and weapons, 2 to 3 combat scenarios, like a short-range combat, like a spaceship chasing battle in the Earth's lunar systems, or long-range combat, like starting from the Earth's lower orbit to plan a course to invade Jupiter's second moon orbit and destroy the enemies there. And hologram 3D maps that represent the position of your ships, planets, and orbits, and you can interact them with your VR sticks, and an acceptable combat visual effects. Simplest version without ship and art and sound designs. This will be the very simple, very first part of a product. I would like to be coming out in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And if we have a more spare time and we want to continue the project after this period, I would like to try to add some more features like the orbital bombardment, like the ship and the weapon designer and the scenario designer. Well, that would be all. That's my questions and the contact information. Sorry for the time. Any questions? Yeah.
So you said something about real time earlier. We're working with a lot of really large distances here. How do you expect like time
I'll be of course planning, a time manipulator to allow you to go faster. You typically you can enjoy the wheel in real time, but if you are in some really large orbit like from Mars to Earth, we can accelerate the time by 200 to 300 times faster.
Okay.
Any questions? Yeah.
Do you have any existing code or anything, or is this going to be built from scratch?
It will be built from scratch. I'm also a newcomer to the Unity, so I'm still working very hard to learn it.
All right. Any other questions? If not, then thank you so much. All right. Thank you all so much for coming here, for staying here till the end of this fair. And if you go to our Discord channel right now, go to announcement, you will see a link. And that's where you can input which project you want to work on. Please fill out the form, because if you don't, we're not going to put you in your team. All right. Have a good night, everyone.